The reason your defense is still trash in CFB 27 is because you have absolutely no idea how to defend the pass. Luckily for you, in this video, I'm giving you 5 elite tips to transform your pass defense from the best coverage shells to use to even the best settings. You're not going to want to miss out on any of the tips I'm breaking down today, or it could be the reason your pass defense is still trash. So what are you thinking? Watch the video all the way to the end, and let's jump right into it. The first tip to pass defense that you need to master is actually the best zone coverage settings to use. Let me break them down. Alright, so what we're going to be breaking down here is going to be the best zones to use here, and that's going to be putting your curl flats on default, or I guess just leaving them on default, and then you're going to make sure that you come into coverage strategy, and you're going to put your coverage strategy on aggressive. It says the pro is you're going to stop shorter routes, the con is deeper routes left open, but that's really not the case, because if we take a look and we call a play with curl flats on the field, again, you need to make sure your play that you're calling actually utilizes curl flats, but we're just going to watch how this curl flat, which it's going to be this defender right here, so this defender Morgan and this defender Sab. Where do they go? Let's just take a look at them. They're one of them actually backpedals and the other one comes down to defend the flat. So that tells me that it's actually based on what routes are on the field. That's what determines how these zones play. So boom, we look at Sab. He backpedals, so these guys are in the same zone. He backpedals to defend a post route, right, to help bracket this post. And then this defender, he backpedals a little bit, yes, but he's really flat to really do a good job of kind of playing in between these two routes, guarding the corner a little bit, but mostly just guarding the underneath pass. And so that's going to be super baity for opponents, because if we take a look at a route concept like this, where they have a corner route and they have a table route, right? You know, we're going to look at the right side. This curl flat defender, this looks like he's backpedaling, and then he comes down, and he's really in a perfect position to break on that pass. Unfortunately, he doesn't right there. But it's like, this is going to really trick offensive players into throwing these deeper passes, or throwing these shorter passes, because it kind of just looks like he's going to backpedal to guard this initially, and then he just does a great job of coming down and breaking on these passes. But you also saw on the other side of the field where it's like, if they have a post route, right, that defender over there is going to do a great job of bracketing that number 3 and making it really tough for them to throw. Now, it's not to say, I'm not trying to tell you guys that like an aggressive curl flat on default is going to guard a corner out. No, if they call a flood concept like this, that curl flat is not guarding that. But you do see how the and you know, Sab actually gets a fumble recovery, but you do see how the outside third is now going to guard it a lot of the time, especially if they don't have a runoff route or they try to pass from the middle of the field, where you take this away, the inside third takes away the shriek, and the outside third takes the corner. So you're still going to be able to do a great job stopping deeper passes with your deep zones, and if you're really good at switch sticking, that can help you out. But if you're really serious about baiting underneath passes, using default curl flats on aggressive is going to be able to do a great job of that. But the next thing that I want to break down here is I'm actually going to respot the ball, because I want to show you what happens in this game, and hopefully this gets patched at some point. But the way that you're running the double Mabel coverage of old has to change, because watch this. We're going to go into our coaching adjustments. I'm going to put my coverage strategy, my zone drop on 25 yards. I'm going to call Tampa 2. All right. And so what we're going to see is I'm going to call wide trail right here. So if we look at this play art, this outside corner, both of them really, but on the right side, Lee Jr. is in a 25-yard cloud flat, which means he should drop back to 25 yards and very easily defend this corner route while giving up the out route. But watch what happens when I'm on the wide side of the field. This is a zone drop, not a default zone. He's going to come down regardless, like he's in a default zone. So essentially, when people tell you use double Mabel, put your flats on 25, curl flats on 5. If you play against someone who's running gun bunch and they just do this, they just like call a route concept like this, you think that your guy's going to be guarding at 25 yards because that's what you have him set to, but in reality, he just comes down to defend the out route anyway, and so this is just a bug that happens in this game, and like I said, hopefully it gets patched, but for the meantime, you need to switch your double Mabel coverage, what zones you're using. And so what I mean by that is now, instead of putting your flats on 25, you're going to put your curl flats on 25, and then you're going to put your flats on 5. So you're just flipping it. It used to be 25 and 5, now it's 5 and 25. because what you can do now, you can also set up a macro for this. If you like, when I'm running the double Mabel coverage in my defensive ebook, I'm just macroing so that I don't have to make these adjustments. But instead of putting my outside corner at cloud flat at 5, I'm now going to put him in a curl flat by pressing Y or triangle, then his icon, which for me is going to be B or circle, and then I'm going to flick the left stick to the right to put him in a curl flat. So now he's going to be dropping to 25 yards because a curl flat doesn't behave in the same way. He actually will get all the way back there and guard that corner out like you're going to be able to see. I'd also recommend putting your slot corner in that 5-yard hard flat to truly do a great job of defending this. But boom, we're going to take the snap. You're going to see how that curl flat, he gets all the way back to 25 yards, never comes down for any reason, whether it's on the wide side, whether it's on the short side, and it's going to be locked down. So you see it again right here. Corner out, easily guarded by this 25-yard curl flat, and then my 5-yard hard flat does a great job of guarding this speed out route. So bottom line here, with your zone settings, make sure that you have your strategy on aggressive, with your zone strategy, and then make sure if you're running the double Mabel coverage, especially against buncher type formations, using 25-yard curl flats and not 25-yard flat zones. Alright, the next tip I want to break down that's going to absolutely transform your pass defense here in CFB 27 is how you can get better with the switch stick. It's the 3rd year that it's in the game, but it's never been more important than it is right now. Let me break down why. Alright, so we're going to come into options, we're going to come into settings, because this was actually patched a few days ago to fix switch stick. So if we come down to our switch stick delay, you want to make sure this is on none, because now they released a patch a few days ago which fixed the switch stick, so now there should be no issues with it. It should be super responsive. But if you turn it on slight or moderate for your delay, that's just going to make it even harder for you to actually switch players on defense, after the snap, and you obviously don't want that. You also don't want to disable switch stick. This is the best and the biggest skill gap on defense, and so you definitely want to be able to switch stick. So make sure you have your switch stick delay on none, and really the best way that I would recommend you get better with the switch stick is, first you have to understand what makes it so good. There's a lot of different coverage shells you can switch stick out of, but what I would tell you is you never really want to get in the habit of switch sticking out of like cover 2, because it just limits you a lot. Because think about it like this, if they were to call a play like verticals actually, and you try to switch stick onto your safety and guard RB, well now you leave B open, if they decide to throw it for a huge gain down the field. So it's very risky to try to switch stick onto deep zones, really from any coverage, but especially, when you're actually in like cover 2. So what we're going to see right here is we're going to put ourselves in like cover 3. Cover 3 is a little bit better for you. Certainly going to, help you out a bit more to switch stick. But now what we're going to see is when we take this snap, you're trying to switch stick onto underneath zones. So your hook zones are going to be the guys that you really want to make sure that you're switch sticking onto, because their risk, like the risk that's associated with switching onto them, isn't as high. Versus, like I said, if you're switch sticking onto a deep zone, you're basically peeling that player out of position and making it easier for them to throw, deeper passes down the field. But the main thing about the switch stick is really just recognizing what routes are on the field and how you're going to take them away with your user defender. Because sometimes you actually don't have to switch stick. Sometimes you can just user, right? Like for example, like right here, this isn't a good play, so I can kind of just guard this RB receiver and now no one else is open. So I'm not really telling you that you need to switch stick every play, but if they call a good route concept, like they call, let me fix this up a little bit here, they call a route concept like this, right, where they have a crosser, they have a drag. Well, what I would probably do right here is I would try to guard this drag and then switch stick and then guard this crosser, where I was able to take away the drag with my original user, and then I was able to switch stick onto my other hook zone to take away their crossing route. I've gotten so many interceptions, doing this, take away the shorter pass. Now they move to the deeper pass, but I'm also here with my user to guard this pass if they decide to throw it because I switched stick. So it's really, like I said earlier, the biggest skill gap, the difference between really good defensive players and average ones is who can switch stick really well and take away as many passes around the field as possible, which is only going to improve your pass defense. But if you're new to the game or you're struggling with the switch stick, the best way to get better with it is to just spy off your pass rush here in practice mode, so you can call literally any zone coverage play. Also, don't get in the habit of switch sticking when you're in man. You're going to be peeling your players out of position, so really only try to do it when you're in zone. But you're just going to see how we're in zone. We have the pass rush spied off right here, and now we have to do a good job of defending their route bounces. So they're going to call like Hail Mary or whatever right here, but eventually these guys are going to start route bouncing down the field, and so your job is to basically make sure that at no point can they throw any of these receivers. And so you're just going to be able to see how, I mean, it's not going to be easy, right? Defending route bounces never is. But the reason why I like this drill is because it trains you on, hey, this, if I flick my right stick here, this is who it's going to switch me onto. And that's really what you need. The reps, the muscle memory of being able to say, if I flick it here, this player is who I'm going to get switched on to. So that's really the switch stick, the best settings to use, how to use it, and then also how to get better with it, because it's not necessarily easy. It's going to take weeks, maybe even months to really feel elite with it, but you can fast track that learning curve by getting here in practice mode for an extended period of time and really working on your switch stick. But like I said, this is going to be the #1 skill gap here with your pass defense that you absolutely need to get better with. Alright, so if you found those first 2 pass defense tips helpful here in College Football 27, make sure you go down below, hit that subscribe button. I break down CFB 27 tips and tricks just like this every single day to help you guys get better, and you don't want to miss out on any of the content that I have. But if you're serious about transforming your defense here in College Football 27, go to that link down below in the pinned comment to join CFB University, where you can get your first month for 20% off by using code YouTube at checkout. It has my full 4-2-5 man pressure defense, all the custom adjustments that I like using, and a ton of other tips, including the ones here in this video for you to save on your phone with screenshots and always reference them during gameplay. So what are you thinking? This is really going to be the best way to get better and learn from me all year long by joining CFU. So go down below and join today at the link down below in the pinned comment, and let's jump right back into the video. Because next I want to break down the best match coverage settings that you absolutely need to be using if you want to run this coverage at a really high level. EA added a ton of new match checks to this game, and they're honestly super confusing at first, but let me simplify them for you. Alright, so first we're going to come into cover 4 quarters, alright, and we're going to be talking about against bunch formations. This is going to be a great way for you to be able to stop bunch in this game, is understanding how cover 4 quarters plays. So what we're going to see is this is actually going to be a bunch strong formation, and so it's going to be a little bit different, but it's kind of similar here. Bunch strong has 4 to a side, bunch obviously just has the 3 receivers. But anytime you're running match coverage, also make sure that you have all 3 zone drop depths on default, or your coverage won't play correctly. But now I'm going to come into cover 4 quarters, and I guess we're playing against bunch strong offset. But whether it's bunch strong nasty, bunch strong offset, these are the best bunches that people are going to run here in this game. So the key is, if you're playing against bunch strong offset, make sure you're using the 3-rec hook defender. He's going to give you the most control and the most kind of versatility to be able to lurk around. Now, the thing about match coverage is there's so many different route concepts that they can call, and so your coverage is going to be totally dependent on the coverage that they actually, or excuse me, the route concept they end up calling. But here's a flood concept. This is a very common play from an offense, and I'll just use her the D-line and put, just for the sake of showing you how this coverage plays. But we do an absolutely fantastic job of guarding everything. The out route gets guarded by the quarter flat. The drag gets guarded by the, kind of backside defenders right here, whether it's the outside quarter, right, or it's the outside quarter right here. And then the corner route, which is typically going to be wide open against a lot of cover 3 and cover 4 defenses, also gets matched onto here on the sideline, for great defense. So this is going to be a great way for you to slow down corner routes, flood concepts, stuff like that. Even if they were to go with more of a wide trail type of setup, something like this, where they have a deep post and they have 2 underneath routes. Again, I have my controller down, but you're still seeing how good this coverage is going to play. Right, you're going to be able to see how we're basically bracketing that post route, and then we're also guarding the underneath passes, to the drags underneath. And so really, this is, with it on box, is going to, with your quarters check on box, you're going to do a great job of actually guarding a lot of these routes. So like I said, this is also going to be a very common play from an offense right here, where they're going to try to space you out. Boom. And so it's like now you're going to easily be able to take away that running back seam pass. Like he's right there to break that pass up. So a lot of their common plays that they would go to are going to be very hard for them to run when you're running cover 4 quarters. Like that post route that's typically going to be wide open, that gets double teamed and gets sailed. All because you're running a coverage that starts out of zone, and then depending on the routes, the vertical routes they call, that's when our guys are able to convert to man coverage. So when you're playing against bunch formations, start using a lot more cover 4 quarters, and with your bunch check on box, right, you start on box and then you go to bingo if they're starting to hit you with underneath passes, but that's going to be a great way to slow down bunch. But then if you're playing against, right here, if you're playing against trips, that's where I would more so use cover 4 palms, because I want to make sure that I have my trips check on stump. Alright, and so like it says right here, like Stubby, the corner and nickel zone off if number 1 doesn't go deep. It's good against isolating teams that are using 3x1 corner routes. So really basically what that means is you're not just going to be able, like if you run cover 4 palms and you leave it on default and they run trips, basically a play like PA slot corner is going to absolutely destroy you, because your corners are going to chase and it's going to leave this safety in a one-on-one against the third trips receiver, so number 5. And so if you decide to not let that happen, if you change it to stump instead of stubby, now your guys are just going to zone off if number 1 doesn't go vertical. So we take this snap right here, and now you're able to see how they're able to double team and bracket that corner out over there. Now, the inside quarter is still going to guard it, but he's going to have additional support because this outside corner decides to bail. He decides to backpedal on this instead of following this receiver like he would do with a different check. And so you're just going to be able to see how now Bray Hubbard is going to guard this post route, and these guys are going to be able to do a great job of just bracketing this. So overall, it's like Stump is going to do a lot better job against your common route concept. Also, it's like if they call all verticals, it's going to be a lot tougher for them to be able to hit that post route, or hit that fade to Y over the top, because you have that additional safety, Bray Hubbard, coming from across the formation. So you're able to see, boom, right here. He flies over here. He's going to make it harder for them to throw this fade over the top, and he's going to make it harder to throw that crosser. And so he's just kind of reading whichever one, I guess, gets more open there. But bottom line, when you're playing against these high-powered meta formations, understanding the best kind of coverage rules to use when you're running match coverage against trips, against bunch, I like using box from cover 4 quarters against bunch, and I like using stump from cover 4 palms against trips formations. Alright, before I jump to those final 2 pass defense tips that you're absolutely not going to want to miss here in College Football 27, I wanted to remind you to go down below, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be breaking down College Football 27 tips and tricks just like this every single day to help you guys get better, and you don't want to miss out on any of the content that I have. So what are you thinking? Go down below, hit that subscribe button today, and let's jump into those final 2 tips. Which that next one is going to be the absolute foundation of defense still here in CFB 27. EA changed the adjustment game up completely from 26 to 27, and if you don't master it now, you're going to have a really tough time winning games. Let me show you. Alright, so like I told you guys last year, quick adjustments are the foundation of defense. If you cannot make adjustments, you're really going to have a tough time defending specifically the pass. Now, custom adjustment macros are going to be great to help you set up blitzes, to be able to set up coverage shells really well, but the reality is, if you can't do a great job, defending plays and adjusting to formation shifting, which is a huge meta right now, by making quick adjustments, you're really going to struggle. So really, in previous years, if you press Y twice, that would open your secondary. And if you press D-pad right twice, that would open your linebackers. And if you press D-pad left twice, that would open your D-line. Well, now it's only one button press. If you press Y or triangle on PlayStation, you can now adjust every single player on the field. The D-line is still going to be the D-pad. So you're going to press Y, and then you're going to press the D-pad up, left, right, or down. And so that's going to open your D-line. if you press RB, and LB, that's gonna open your safeties, and then your outside corners are always gonna be X or B, or that would be square or circle on PlayStation. Your slot corner is always gonna be A, which is X on PlayStation, and then left trigger or Y are going to be your two linebackers. And so this is going to be universal from every defense in the game, except for like big nickel or like 4-2-5 over G. Those adjustments are a little bit different, but this makes it a lot easier to make quick adjustments because, like I said, in previous years, if I wanted to put my safety RB in an inside third, right, to defend a trips formation, I would have had to press, well, really, let me say this. If you wanted to set up a cover 3 on this trip side, in previous years, you would have had to press like 12 buttons. Now, I only have to press, I think, 9. If I press Y, I press B, left stick up. That's 3. Y, 4, RB, left stick left, which is now 6 button presses. So now we have the 2 deep zones. If I press Y, A, and then left stick to the right, now I can put him in a curl flat. So like I said, it went from 12 button presses down to 9, which makes a huge difference because every button press takes time. So to be able to eliminate as many of them as possible is going to help you out. Then if I even wanted to, man up this receiver, right? Like right here, if I wanted to man up their inside trip receiver, now we're talking about 16 adjustments, 16 button presses in previous years versus that's now down to 12 button presses. And so like I said, every button press is going to save you time and make it harder for them to actually be able to quick snap you. So again, like I said, if I reset my play right here, you would never want to run a cover 2 against a trips formation. Instead, what you would want to do is try to adjust this to a cover 3 like I do right here, where it's super, super quick because I understand I have built the muscle memory, the new muscle memory of how to actually make quick adjustments in this game. So quick recap here, you just press Y or triangle on PlayStation to open the adjustments of every player on the field. You use the D-pad to open the D-line, whatever you wanted to put them in. You press X or B to open your outside corners. RB and LB are your safeties. Your slot corner is pretty much always going to be A, and then your linebackers are going to be left trigger in the Y button. But mastering quick adjustments, the new foundation of defense, because you can't solely rely on macros when people are audibling or formation shifting, and so you really have to do a great job of understanding how to make adjustments and adjust on the fly. Alright, so the last tip that I want to break down is actually also going to be the foundation of defense, specifically after the snap. In this tip, I'm going to be breaking down how you can actually improve your user defender to be able to get way more user lurks. Alright, so I'm going to put them in a random pass play here, and I'm just going to call one of my favorite coverages Cover 3 Cloud, because earlier in the video, I broke down switch stick. And really, I should have probably broken down this tip before I talked about switch stick, because it all starts with having a good user before you even get good with the switch stick, right? And really what I mean by having a good user is in previous years before the switch stick was a thing, you could only user one defender for the entire duration of the play. And so it was really important, and it honestly still is, to be able to have a good user and be in the right spots. So again, they're in a random play, and you see here they're actually formation shifting, which is also why, quick adjustments are so important, like I talked about in the last tip. But it's like, I just have to make sure I'm running around in the right spots and taking away passes. Now, what I want you to understand is if they call a good route concept, it's still going to be difficult to guard everything with one player, which is why the switch stick is important. But the reality is, if they called, this is a great example of a route concept that I'm talking about. This route concept isn't very good. The only guy that's really going to get open on this play is the crossing route to Y, if I don't user it, right? So, but if I do user it, now no one's open. And the reality is a lot of players don't really understand how to call good plays and route concepts that force your hand as a user defender and make it impossible for you to guard everything with only one defender. And so if that's the case, if I just user this, who's open? No one else is open. But you realize if I didn't user that, that's a wide open pass on the sideline, or they could have thrown it in the middle of the field. So you really have to do a great job of understanding where you're supposed to be with your user defender so that you can actually defend. Like right here, you don't want to fall for the fake. You want to make sure you're over the middle of the field and getting user lurks. Always guarding the deepest threat to your defense. And so right here, it's like they bring a guy in motion, cool, I don't need to get out there and guard this. I know that I already have a flat on the field, so I'm going to stay over the middle. I guard kind of this a little bit, take that away, and then I'm coming up here to guard this, dig route and this underneath drag. So both of those routes are going to be great examples of what I mean when I say having a good user. You don't necessarily want to, like, for example, if we go ahead and have them call a different play, if they call this play right here with a drag and a crosser, I wouldn't want to user the drag and then give up the crosser, which is what too many players do. You user this drag and now they just throw that in the middle of the field, green, and it's just an easy catch. You don't want to do that. Instead, you would want to user the crosser and give up the drag. So really the same thing right here with RB and A, where this time I take away the crosser and make them throw the drag, because if they throw that crosser, it's a 50-yard gain or a touchdown down the field. So really, you need to make sure you're always using a middle linebacker. Never user a D lineman. It's very easy to block you, and it makes your pass rush even worse when you user a D lineman. So always user a linebacker here, and then look for work over the middle. Sometimes the routes aren't even over the middle. They might be on the sideline that you need to guard, but you need to make sure you're taking away the deepest threat on the field and never letting them have easy completions, because you're trying to take away checkdowns when you really should be taking away whatever the deepest threat is to your defense on that play. Alright, so if you found these 5 pass defense tips helpful here in College Football 27, make sure you go down below, hit that subscribe button. I break down CFB 27 tips and tricks just like this every single day to help you guys get better, and I'm the only one that's going to be doing it every day here on YouTube all year long. So this is really the best channel to watch and take information from, so go down below, hit that subscribe button today. But if you're serious about transforming your pass defense here in College Football 27, go to the link down below in the pinned comment to join CFB University, where you can get your first month for 20% off by using code YouTube at checkout. It is my full 4-2-5 man pressure defense, plus custom adjustments that you need to be using, and the tips, the pass defense tips that I'm breaking down here in this video for you to save everything to your phone during gameplay and always be able to reference. So what are you thinking? If you're serious about winning more games, getting better on defense, join CFBU today. And if you want to see a preview of what CFBU actually looks like and what's inside, check out this short video I made right here. I'll see you over there. Peace.